And good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra for a Saturday. And, have you heard? So it seems like sometime in the near future, I don't know, maybe something like in 2026, the Nigerian government says we'll be paying an extra 5% surcharge on petrol. And honestly, when I first heard it, I thought it was a bad joke, like as if it's April Fool's Day in September. Because you mean to tell me after subsidy removal, after diesel and cooking gas doubled, after inflation is dragging us like generator, you still want to tax Nigerians 5% on fuel again? How about now? But the government's explanation is simple. We need to expand the tax base, reduce oil dependency, and fund infrastructure. So on paper, that sounds reasonable. I mean, other countries have done it, but here's the catch. They did it with structure. They did it with accountability, with timing, with sense. And that's where Nigeria often misses the mark. Let's take Sweden, for instance. Back in the 1990s, they introduced a fuel tax, but it wasn't just about squeezing citizens. They linked it directly to environmental goals. Every penny collected was earmarked for visible projects, cleaner buses, efficient trains, renewable energy powering entire neighborhoods. I mean, today you can travel through Sweden and actually see where the money went. Biofuel buses gliding past, trains that arrive on time, communities, whole communities running on wind and solar. Let's imagine that in Nigeria. Go ahead, I'll give you 5 seconds. I know, right? Error. Now, let's take a look at Canada. In 2019, they rolled out their carbon tax. People were furious. Nobody likes paying more for petrol. But they did something rare. They gave the money back. Every Canadian household started receiving a direct rebate straight into their bank accounts. And sometimes families even got back more than they even paid in. Go ahead, let's imagine that in Nigeria. Take another 5 seconds. In fact, don't bother because it's another error. Because it's hard to think that in Nigeria you can actually buy petrol at 900 naira per litre, and next week an alert comes into your phone saying, "Dear Mazino, your fuel rebate has been, paid." Most of us are going to yell out scam before we even check to see if it's true. Because we know that when the government collects money in Nigeria, it often disappears faster than your data subscription. And we're left with no cleaner BRTs, no rebates, and not even smoother roads, just promises that gather dust. But let's talk about impact. That 5% is not just fuel, it's actually a transport fare creeping up. It's Gary becoming more expensive, pure water suddenly jumping up in price, even akara goes up to 200 naira per ball. Because in Nigeria, when petrol sneezes, the whole economy catches malaria. And who pays for it? You, the everyday Nigerian who's already tired, already stretched, already wondering if this country even loves its citizens. However, hold your horses. Before we crucially crucify the government, let's flip the coin a bit. Now, the government is not just waking up every day thinking, how are we going to make Nigerians' lives miserable today? No, the reality is money is tight in Nigeria. All prices swing like mood swings. Debt are breathing down Nigeria's neck. And subsidy was swallowing almost the entire budget. So in those circumstances, a fuel tax actually looks like low-hanging fruit. It's not pretty, but it is practical. Germany actually faced something similar in the year 2000 when they rolled out their eco tax. People were furious. They resisted too. But here's the difference. Berlin phased it in slowly, like dipping your toe inside before taking a dip dive. And more importantly, they paired it with social benefits. So yes, you paid a bit more at the pump, but your pay slip felt the impact. People could connect the dots. The pain of today was directly linked to the relief of tomorrow. Now, compare that to Nigeria. I mean, we're in a moment when inflation is sprinting, food prices are smashing records, and fuel is already a luxury item. Then add fresh tax come 2026. It feels like you're being handed a bitter medicine and no water to even swallow it. But again, let's be fair. The government isn't just greedy, no. The truth is they're desperate. Yes, they're desperate. I mean, roads are crumbling, hospitals are limping, power is epileptic, schools are begging for funds, and the main revenue source, which is oil, is no longer reliable. Imagine running your own household without stable income. I mean, loans mounts, children still need school fees. At some point, you're going to need to go look for another side hustle. And that is what this tax looks like. The government's side hustle. It's not popular, but maybe it's necessary. But the real question is, can Nigeria implement it without setting the whole house on fire? I mean, other countries have shown us that it's possible. If the rollout is gradual, if the revenue is visible, and if citizens are cushioned with rebates or maybe even benefits. But if it's just another flat-out taxation with nothing to show for it, and it feels less like policy and more like punishment. So I guess it's safe to say that Nigerians aren't asking for magic. We're not even rejecting sacrifice. What we're asking is simple. If you must take, at least hold the receipts and show it to us. Because right now it feels like government keeps taking and taking and taking and taking, and we're left wondering when, if ever, we'll see the return on investment. As most Nigerians will continue to do, we continue to pray. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say welcome to Breakfast Extra. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm not alone. The delectable Queen Celestine is in the house. It's like as if I'm, you know, that
was an amazing monologue, Mazzino.
Oh, thank you very much. But let me give you your flowers, first of all. I'm announcing you like as if it's a Friday night. It might be where you coming from, Queen Celestine.
Thank you, Mazzino.
How was your Friday night?
It was amazing. I celebrated my brother's 40th birthday yesterday, but I couldn't stay long because I had, job to do. So we're here.
This terrible job.
It's not so terrible. Come. We have a lot to discuss.
In any case, I'll come meet you there. We'll take a look at the dailies and then we'll get on with Breakfast Extra.
Of course.
We'll be right back.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. It's Saturday and here's what we are tracking for you today. In Kaduna, former Governor Nasir El-Rufai and opposition leaders have been invited by police after violence broke out at a rally, raising fresh questions about security and political tensions. Nationally, the federal government's intended 5% fuel surcharge is already sparking concerns from Nigerians, with many warning it will deepen the cost of living crisis. And the PDP is also in the spotlight as fresh demands from Wike's camp threatens to shake party unity ahead of the national convention. And in Delta State, police uncovered drugs worth over 80 million naira in a chemist shop. And on the global stage, Africa's balancing act in the Israel-Palestine conflict highlights how history, economics and diplomacy are shaping its position in world affairs. Finally, we talk about the tragic death of Dr. Oluwafemi Rotifa after a 72-hour shift has reignited urgent questions about the struggles of Nigeria's health workers. All that and more coming up on Breakfast Extra. But first, let's take a look at the dailies. Mazzino.
Yes. We will do the dailies. I was very interested in. I'm very invested in one of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, and that's the entire PDP issue that's happening in.
Oh my God!
I was going to say in River State because from before you'd think PDP was a whole River State instance because that kind of like took our attention when it came to anything PDP.
Now we can see it's moving.
It's moving. Now it's the actual issues within the PDP.
Yes.
And why it's such a fragmented party at this point, and the questions that arise when it comes to the primary players inside of the instance. We're going to be talking a lot about Wike today. Let me just say that, very interesting dynamic.
Like I said, Nigeria is like a marriage with a lot of issues.
Indeed. But like you said from before, let's take the dailies this morning. Let's go ahead and see what we have in the front pages.
Yes. So, Mazzino, let's start with The Nation.
Yes, indeed.
Today is Saturday.
Okay,
So
we should always start. So it's Saturday the 4th. What's the 6th? Saturday 6th of September 2025. All right.
So it says 2027, Jonathan in Delima, associate split. That's on page 2. Why former president embarked on exploratory visits? Associate says it cost him nothing to say no if he's not interested.
So he should say no already. But he has said no.
Patience helped us to say no.
Patience actually says,
She said,
I'm not going.
No, she's not going. No. She's seen a lot, I suppose.
Poor lady. I miss her, however. She was golden.
Fantastic. And below it said, Ed El Maloud, First Lady, Speaker Abbas, governors, others preach peace and tolerance, and that we see in page 5 and 6. Wike to Nigerians pray for Tinubu's success. Below it said, troops kill 11 terrorists, arrest 64. I'm praying it was 100 terrorists. Arrest 64 collaborators. NSCDC military orders foil bandits attack in Plateau. And then it says, disquiet in Osun community as crown of monarch jailed in US goes missing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
That's
terrifying.
Wow, interesting. I wonder
Quite
who could have.
terrifying.
Okay, so there's too many things here. The monarch is jailed, and then the crown goes missing here.
My God.
So it's like everything's happening at the same time. So
Maybe when they're trying to get another person, the crown would just
I don't know. Well, let's read the story. Read the story to get the details.
So beside it, Bishop Mike Okonkwo, who turned 80, succession uppermost in my heart at 80, and that's on page 23. Below, wanted Sujimoto boss in tears, vows to clear name with EFCC, and we find that on page 2. And below that it says why registration of new parties is delayed by INEC on page 6. And above that, Rivers set for Fubara's return as Ibas prepares exit report. We find that on page 4. And beside it, it says DSS files terrorism charges against Ansaru leaders linked to Kuje prison break.
Okay. That's it for the nation, I guess. If you don't mind, I'll do the Saturday Vanguard. Yes. Front and center for Saturday Vanguard, how Afrobeat superstars are redefining global music scene, their lifestyle, money, cars, jets. Yes, making it seem like Nigeria is, we're not happy or things are not, you know. Now, up on the Vanguard, Peter Obi to Tinubu, your vacation isn't more important than Nigeria's protection duty. Okay, so well, everybody deserves a bit of rest, and I don't know. 2026 WCQ, Osimhen leads Super Eagles attack against Mavubi. Bafana pile more pressure on Nigeria. Hits Lesotho 3-0. Yahoo Boys, the gospel of fast money on page 12 might make for an interesting Saturday read. Health, delayed breakfast linked to early death for elderly. 30 minutes exercise slashes cancer cell growth. I think that's very important. You can find that on page 41. And simplified port process is key to raising export volume at Deni. Customs generates 3.7 trillion naira at Apapa port in 16 months. I don't know what's happening at the Apapa port, but it is my route every single morning coming to work. And there seems to be a buildup of trucks. These aren't tankers. These are trucks. I don't know what they're heading to the port for, but they're beginning to cause a nuisance all the way from Sele. Or after Sele, just before mile 2. Don't know what it is, but hopefully.
Well, I think a lot of people also who do a lot of importation into Nigeria are always complaining that, you know, their goods are stuck in customs and stuff.
There's a lot happening at the ports.
Maybe the whole clearing and making sure that illegal items don't make it.
It might be the new policies that are affecting the structure.
Tax and all that.
And, yeah, exactly. What headlines do you have?
So let's go to the Saturday Times. It says, tenants, agents, 8 landlords debate rising cost of rent in Nigeria. I need to read that. And besides it, it said, Deola Alade gets real about working with her husband, Dari Alade. That should be on page 12. FG diffuses tension around 5% fuel tax, says implementation remain dormant. Edo Anti-Cultism Squad arrests 9 suspects on page 4. New Peng accuses Dangote Dantata of monopolizing oil sector, vows showdown. Middle Belt cancels El-Rufai's comment against Southern Kaduna. Wizkid secures record-breaking pay for Algerian concert. That's on page 13. And below it says Patrick Mba Heaven's Reign celebration of life as he turns 98. And above that it says PDP is bigger than Wike, Plateau ex-governor, Tabgon says. And beside him it says WHO urges Nigeria to allocate 20% of budget to public health.
Okay, so listen, about Wike and the PDP, you can curse Wike all you can, you can shout, you can say he's a mole, you can call him this, but the truth is he's actually fighting fire with the law. He's telling the processes as they should be due process. This is how you're supposed to go about this and that. That's something that they need to critically take a look at instead of, and I'm not holding forth for Wike or the PDP, I'm just telling you as I see it, as it's playing out. It might be intentional, but the fact is he is going by the book. And so should the party to forestall any possibility of...
And for transparency.
Illegality. Yeah, illegality within the party structure.
I agree.
Simple. But we'll talk more about that inside the second hour here on Breakfast Extra. Let's move to the Guardian newspaper this morning now. South. An oil-rich region will, with dunghills of abandoned projects. If I'm not mistaken, do I have the right one? I have the Guardian Weekend here. I'm sure, yes. Oh, hang on. No, we've got the wrong one because that's not a Nigerian paper. The Guardian Weekend. I'll continue with that one if you do not mind, the producers. Foundation to honor Elumelu, New York Archbishop for explanatory leadership, and Eid el-Maulud, Nigerians facilitate Muslims. Tinubu's wife, Louis Sola, others urge peace and tolerance on page 2. Closing gender gaps could add $229 billion to Nigeria's GDP, say minister. And Unilag honors Diri with book on leadership, proposes professional chair endowment. At the top for the Guardian Weekend, Nigeria will be better off without politics of pre-dendalism, says Ihua, and Tinubu should overhaul NTA as voice of Africa too. Interesting that this should actually come up. It's a very interesting take on what the media, what the NTA has become over the years and how bigger it actually should be, being the very first network in Africa. Yeah. But not really holding that ground anymore. No. But congratulations to new employees, the DG, if I'm not mistaken, and we wait to see that more is done to help it get back on its feet. Let's just leave it there. What are we doing now?
I think we should go on a break.
Let's do that.
And then when we come back, we have more conversations.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Welcome again. Now we begin this morning with a big report from Kaduna State, where last weekend an inauguration event by the coalition of opposition parties, including APC dissenters, PDP, SDP, NNPP, LP, and also ADC, was violently disrupted. Suspected thugs, armed with cutlasses, clubs, and stones, stormed the venue, injuring attendees and vandalizing property. Despite the chaos, the event continued under tense conditions. The Kaduna State Police have since come under sharp criticism for their slow response, with ADC leaders accusing them of failing to protect members and even alleging complicity or deliberate inaction.
And following the incident, the Kaduna police invited former Governor Nasir El-Rufai along with 6 senior ADC figures for questioning over allegations of criminal conspiracy, incitement of public disturbance, mischief, and grievous hurt. A police letter dated September 4, 2025 requested their appearance on September 8th, but many of those invited say they only learned of the summons through social media. Meanwhile, police also moved to seal off the ADC state office for the heightening tensions. Now here's our news central correspondent Emmanuel Bagudu with the full report.
Members of the Social Democratic Party and the African Democratic Congress running for their lives as thugs invaded their meeting. From injuries to the destruction of properties, the attack paints a worrying situation to not just residents of the state, but the entire country at large.
Disgusting. Very, very disgusting. This is really sad, especially in Kaduna State, where we feel that we have gone far beyond the occurrences that we witness today. So it's very sad for whoever that was behind what happened to do what he did. It's sad.
We came to hold a meeting, which is our constitutional right, but unfortunately, thugs who were known in the state came and trying to disrupt the event, and unfortunately, some of them were arrested. But at the end of the day, the police released them. So we are asking the police and the state government that why are they releasing people who are thugs? The person that was arrested, I have his video, jumping into the hall with stick and cutlass, and they caught him and they released him.
We will take steps in the future to ensure that we don't react to situations like this.
Although the cause of the clash is being investigated by security operatives, ex-Governor El-Rufai is pointing accusing fingers at the police and the Kaduna State Governor, Obiaraeri.
The police was complicit. The Assistant Commissioner of Police that was there watched while these thugs were attacking people with machetes, destroying people's vehicles. And it is a matter that I will report to the highest levels of the police and the Police Service Commission. I have his picture. He has removed his name tag, which is contrary to police regulations. We'll escalate this. We will bring them to book.
The police have suspended all political meetings in Kaduna State till further notice. In Kaduna for News Central, Emmanuel, Bagudu.
So once again, to summarize, a political event in Kaduna violently disrupted by armed thugs, raising serious concerns about both security and policing. In response, the police have summoned key opposition figures, including El-Rufai and ADC leaders, under heavy criminal allegations, though some insist they only became aware of the summons online. So, however, joining us now to unpack this is our correspondent, Emmanuel Bagudu, who brought us the report. Emmanuel, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us here for Breakfast Extra.
Yes. So Emmanuel.
Yes, good morning, yes, thank you so much. Good morning from Northwest Nigeria.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Emmanuel, we watched the report, and I just had to ask you, apart from seeing the people and the people who were able to talk, what was the body language? What was the mood like on ground when the attack began? How did people react, and what did you observe in those first moments?
Yes, it's just tension and shock, because you can visibly see blood, gushing out from the body of victims. You can visibly see vehicles being destroyed there. You can see people running helter-skelter for their lives. So it's all about tension and then shock, which is unfortunate. Kaduna have not witnessed that for a very long time right now. And coming in, to be happening in between two heavyweights, the immediate past governor and then, of course, the current governor, is a case of two elephants are fighting and the ground suffering. And, of course, the aftermath of that particular clash, that particular attack has been something that citizens are yet to recover from, the police are yet to recover from. And, of course, you've seen the statement from the Kaduna State Ministry of Internal Affairs and Internal Security and Home Affairs. They are warning Mr. El-Rufai that they will not tolerate any form of incitement from him, because they believe that that gathering was just meant to it's not a political gathering. That's what that statement means.
Oh,
that it's just
Emmanuel,
because the police initially said they actually warned El-Rufai not to hold that meeting.
Okay.
And of course, their second aftermath is the fact that the police have actually invited the ex-governor. Quite, the beauty of the democracy, the beauty of rule of law. This is a man that has been controlling the security architecture of the state for 8 years. Today,
Emmanuel,
just a second.
Emmanuel, I want to take you back a bit. You said that they were already warned against holding that assembly. Is that? Well, I want you to confirm that now.
Yes. The statement from the police. The statement from the police said that there was a warning that that particular gathering should not hold.
Was there a reason given for why they didn't want them to hold the gathering?
The reason the police cited was that they warned El-Rufai and his coalition not to hold the meeting, because they suspected that there is a little bit, they may be attacked. That's just why they said that they may be attacked, and then the tension, that there was a little bit of political tension in the state, and so there was no need for that meeting to hold for now, till the tension is doused down before they can hold any meeting.
Okay.
But they believe, they said that they are just holding a very innocent gathering. They are not holding for any clash. No, they didn't know that, of course, there was a plan by some hoodlums to come into that particular place to attack them. So the police, I feel that El-Rufai should take responsibility, because he was earlier warned not to hold that particular assembly. Yeah.
So inadvertently, what you're saying is that the police had warned them of this kind of an instance from before, saying there's political tension, this kind of thing might happen. They went on to have the assembly, and then it did indeed happen. Now the police are telling that we warned you from before, you went ahead and had it, and that's your problem. In any case, El-Rufai is saying that the police should be held culpable because they were even complicit in the event when they saw the thugs. So that's my summary. However, what about your witness of accounts? Were there cases, like the young man said, where thugs were caught and released? Just trying to prove the complicity of the police here.
They are verifiable claims.
Okay.
They are verifiable claims. These are claims that are subject to investigation, because the police said they have launched an investigation about the situation. Of course, there were people that were caught at the scene. And of course, it's not my responsibility to know whether they are prosecuted, because I was just meant to, get the stories, the objective part of the story. But it is a claim, it's a widely claimed by the SDP and ADC members that, of course, the thugs that came to attack them were arrested and were later released by the police. We had those statements from the ex-governor, El-Rufai. He said he saw the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of operations in that particular area, watching thugs attacking them without doing anything. It is coming from a political figure, an authority. That's El-Rufai. So that should be taken serious. And the summon by the police is in connection with the fact that we asked you not to hold this meeting. Come and explain to us why you went ahead to do that.
Oh, okay.
Up to the extent of making the unthinkable happen. So there are instances. These are just claims that are subject to investigation by the police. Yeah.
So Emmanuel, based on what you said, now police had warned them not to, have this meeting, but they did have the meeting. So when the police people arrived and acted, did their presence come or escalate the situation, knowing fully well that El-Rufai also mentioned that he saw a police without a name tag who was part of the attack? So what was their presence like?
Yes, the ADC and the APC, SDP coalition members only reacted because El-Rufai also had his own bodyguards. He also has his own security, private security, who opened fire in that particular gathering to repel these attackers that came in to attack the ADC SDP coalition. I think that's where the police found fault in it, because El-Rufai security repelled the attackers and then opened fire on live ammunition, talking about in a government reserve area. We're talking about Bagudu layout, a very, very interesting place, a very cosmopolitan area. That is why the police found issues with. So probably claims made by El-Rufai was that the Assistant Commissioner of Police just folded his arms to watch. But we are very sure. We were sure what we're saying, that the security of El-Rufai actually repelled the attackers by opening fire. Meanwhile, the attackers were not coming with guns. The attackers came in with machetes, cutlasses, and there's this traditionally.
So Bagudu, it makes you wonder. Bagudu, it makes you wonder how they were able to get through regular structures when it comes to urban dwelling without being noticed with machetes and the rest. Right. And if they are, or if they were in numbers. So how did they get through perhaps security installations leading up to the venue without being noted? You'd have to summarize that because we're actually out of time. My apologies, but please do tell.
Okay, just round up. In Kaduna, politics, the political landscape of Kaduna State is it works a lot with crowd. They took advantage of the crowd and then they camouflaged into the crowd. They infiltrated the crowd without anybody knowing. They came in and sat into the meeting without being noticed. They came in as if they are members of the coalition, and when at the climax of the meeting, they strike. And their friends outside jumped into the window and then joined them, and there was confusion all over. So it was all about camouflage. So when there is political gathering in Kaduna, people are not stopped from associating. People just are allowed to just come in. After all, it's a rally, it's a game of numbers. People are just allowed to go freely and join. So they took advantage of that situation, and then they infiltrated the meeting, and then that was when they struck. Yeah, thank you.
Emmanuel, thank you very much for giving that backstory to the report. It was very interesting getting all the bits that didn't go into the report from the horse's mouth. Not calling you a horse, but thank you very much, Emmanuel Bagudu. I will continue to follow developments as the police have summoned El-Rufai, and hopefully you'll bring us another good one for next week. Thank you again. Now let's go on a quick break. We've got another conversation about that 5% fuel tax. If you stay tuned.
Thank you for staying with us. Nigeria is bracing for a new cost burden. The federal government's 5% fuel surcharge set to take effect on a yet-to-be-disclosed date under the Harmonized Tax Act. It has triggered widespread criticism. The Punch editorial board describes the tax as not just bad policy, but fundamentally unjust, stressing that Nigerians are still struggling with the ripple effect of subsidy removal, rising transport fares, and double-digit inflation. Opposition voices like Peter Obi has also weighed in on his verified X handle. The former presidential candidate urged that millions can hardly afford transportation and urged the government to ease hardship, not deepen it.
So the backlash has also been strong from opposition parties like the ADC, who denounced the surcharge as a cruel and deep insensitive move, accusing the government of hollow revenue justifications while ignoring citizens' welfare. On this part, or rather on its part, the government defends the policy as a necessary measure to expand Nigeria's tax base, reduce dependence on oil rents, and fund critical infrastructure. But critics warn this may end up squeezing households, SMEs, and transport operators without providing the promised safety nets. So to help us unpack the implications of this contentious tax, we're joined by Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, investment banker, executive, and also development economist. You're welcome, sir. Good to have you here.
You're welcome.
Dr. Nnaemeka, anytime I see you, I know that we're going to have a good time. Well, I know we're going to get educated. Let me just put it that way. So first off, sir, we also got information about this tax. It's not yet a tax that has been implemented. However, it has been in existence for a bit now. It just hasn't been actioned by the government. What are the implications of this 5% tax? But first, start by telling us exactly what the justification is for the government, if there is any.
There is no justification for imposition of 5% tax on fossil fuel consumption in Nigeria. Firstly, we need to understand the whole reason behind introducing taxes on fossil fuel consumption in some of the Western environments from where we borrowed this. You clearly know that in the West, they've been trying to move away from fossil fuel consumption to green energy because they felt that the ozone layer is being depleted. So they introduced all manner of taxes to discourage the use of fossil fuel and encourage the use of green alternative sources. Nigeria as a country is a fossil fuel rich country. It's our mainstay. We have 37.5 billion barrels of proven reserve crude oil, which can even grow to 60 billion. We have 206 trillion standard cubic feet of gas, worth over 1.43 trillion. We have over 689 million tons of coal reserve, even estimated to be 2.8 billion, worth over $305 billion, and other things buried under the soil. And we all know factors of production are four. Land is number one, human capital, equipment and machineries, and funding. And there's nothing that is produced on earth that does not require either from the surface of the earth, agro production, or beneath the earth, mineral giftings from God. And in this country, we have 197 million people who live on less than $64.50 income per day, per month, which is about 100,000. And by the World Bank indicators, anybody who earns such is supposed to be receiving welfare interventions and not allow taxes be imposed on him, either directly or indirectly. Come to think of it, as a fossil fuel country, what we should be thinking about if we want to ramp up revenue. I heard I listened to the excuses given by Taiwo Oloyede, the guy who was saddled with putting in place these bills. And he was making the argument that, oh, they will use the excess money to fund transportation infrastructure and reduce costs of transport. That is what I don't want to use a foul word. But the truth is, if their intentions were genuine and they wanted to reduce cost of transportation, then two things they would do. How they can reduce the cost of energy in terms of price of white petroleum products, gas oil, gasoline, and the DPK, and how they can reduce the cost of vehicles importation in Nigeria. Vehicle is not a luxury. By way of articulated buses, trucks, and the four-cylinder cars that people in Nigeria today, by our population and land mass, we need at least 700,000 buses, articulated cars, and trucks to plow our road to help reduce the logistic problem that we have in this country. And if you look at all the assembly plants in Nigeria, from Innocent to North, their annual production capacity is about 14,000, which does not even scrap up to 5%. A right-thinking government making policies to benefit the people and not their own private pockets, what they will have done if you want to reduce energy cost or to the cost of transportation is to put only 5% tariff on imported cars, especially those that are going to be used to ease transportation, and which is very, very easy. 5% on tractors, trucks, and all the rest of them. Even zero tariff. And then on the cost of the white petroleum products, if you want to start, we have shared with them severally on different forums, things they can do to reduce energy cost of fuel down from the current 869 level to about 600 level, no matter what happened in the international market, that's the volatility.
Dr. Nnaemeka,
there is no justification whatsoever.
But just a second, thanks for that clarification. There's no justification, but you have just proposed a system where you shift that cost to cars instead. And by the way, remember that this surcharge would have applied to every Nigerian who's using fuel. So that gives you a volume where the government can actually say, okay, fine, we're getting this resource. It's our little piggy bank for, making transportation better and all. Now, if you shift that taxation or that suggested tax to other material like cars, for instance, you might not get as good a chunk of money that a government could use for development. So I just wanted to note that point there. Maybe you could respond to that. But Queen here has a question.
Good morning, Dr. Nnaemeka.
No, let me clarify that.
Okay.
You didn't get me right. As of today, over 60 to 70% are charged on car import, which makes the cost of car importation very, very expensive, and which also adds to the cost of transportation. I am saying that if they actually, their whole intention was to use excess money to fund transport infrastructure and reduce the cost of transport, what they would have done was to reduce the burden that is put on those bringing in vehicles that will help us each logistic and transport challenges. So what I suggested was a way or things they will have done to reduce what they intended to achieve, putting more burden on Nigerians.
Okay, now I get you. I totally get you now.
So, Dr. Nnaemeka, a lot of people were complaining about the 5% surcharge, and I think the government responded saying that they were going to give, I think, about 8,000 to a household per month, which will be about, I think, 96,000 a year. So, if instead of giving the citizens 8,000 a month, if you check the money they want to spread to 12 million homes, that's about a trillion plus. So how do you think that this will, the ripple effect of their calculation will affect Nigeria's economy, especially in our transport costs, inflation, and household budgets?
I just mentioned to you here that by the World Bank indicators, anybody who lives on less than $64.50 net income per month, which is 100,000 by exchange rate, is classified as poor and requires social welfare interventions. How can human beings be thinking about giving 8,000 naira to households in today's Nigeria? You live in Nigeria, you go to market. What can 8,000 do on the life of even one person in a month, talk less of a household? These guys should stop being ridiculous. In this country, from 2000, I don't know what is wrong with our leaders. We tried this from 2015 till now, under the Buhari regime. We wasted trillions of naira on social welfare interventions that ended up empowering and filling the private pocket of kleptomaniacs in place of power authority in the public sector. Whereby when APC took over power in Nigeria, extreme poverty level was put at about 75 million. Today, the number is over 197 million, practically and realistically. Do you know that the NTIC produced a report of the number of deposits in banks accounts in Nigeria? Out of the over 138 million accounts in Nigerian banks, only about 0.4% has 500 deposits on them. That's about $300 in it, which simply means there's a clear indication of the kind of level of poverty in this land. How can we continue to raise and repeat the same mistake and expect us, this Babiala culture of giving stipend that will not add value? There's no way in today's Nigeria, even 100,000 naira monthly interventions to families is not enough. A bag of rice today is about 55,000 to 75,000.
96.
Dr. Nnaemeka.
There is no household in Nigeria today that
Dr.
can
Nnaemeka.
survive legitimately on anything less than 200.
So, Dr. Nnaemeka, this is not a new thing. In the global scheme of things, countries have tried it. Sweden tried it. Germany tried it. They tried it in Ghana, but it didn't really work. But let's stick to the ones that actually worked. What it did was it actually put money back in the hands of citizens. No matter how small it was, it generated a bit of, rebate for citizens. And that wasn't the only thing that generated rebate for these citizens. They had other policies that also continued to make sure that it gave support back to the citizens. Now, this is only one of what could be many such policies in Nigeria. Could it not be that maybe this is a good start? I mean, where else is the government going to get money from in any case, without causing strain on that sector or that system, like we were just talking about the imports now?
Okay, now let me tell you where government can get money if they are really serious. Recently, the federal government of Nigeria applied for a $25 billion loan from different sources. And till today, we have not gotten a breakdown of how they intend to apply that 21 billion and the catalytic effect of it in improving the socio-economic welfare of the average Nigerian, so their ATIs. If the governments are sincere and they want to see how they can ramp up revenue, I will explain to you different sources. We are a fossil fuel-rich country. At a time in this country in 2010, we were producing 2.8 million barrels of crude and condensate every day. Go and check the records of the CBN between October to November 2010. Those oil wells did not dry up. What happened was that inefficiencies, corruption, crude oil free enabled us to lose over a chunk of our product. We lose annually over $22 billion worth of our crude oil to private thieves, not poor thieves. Thieves in place of power, but to steal crude oil is not an easy thing. Saudi Arabia has crude oil pipeline that is 4 times bigger than that of Nigeria. You will never hear them losing a barrel of crude to thieves. Let them improve efficiency in that upstream oil and gas sector, improve security, improve infrastructure, reduce cost of production, and ramp up our production to at least 2.3 million barrels a day. We will have excess of over $10 billion coming to this country. It is bigger than whatever they can borrow in the next 8 years. Number 2, the lowest hanging fruit is agriculture. Netherlands, with a land mass of about 1.5 million, 5 million hectares, rakes in almost about 120 billion euros every year through agro exports. Nigeria can do 250 billion. We've shared with them what they can do to ramp up that. We can create, with that, with $15 billion out of the fund they want to borrow, we can create 2,500 agro clusters in 2,500 centers in Nigeria that will enable us to generate 250,000 agro rangers that will help us to slay insecurity, which is the major problem we have here. It will help us to ramp up revenues of almost about $190 to $250 billion annually. We will create 20 million jobs. We will take over 40 million Nigerians out of poverty straight away. From the corporate taxes and individual taxes that will come with empowered Nigerians, empowered corporates within that sector, we will generate enough revenue to do whatever we want to do. There are different things we can do. They will have to, over 60% of whatever is budgeted in the public sector are rooted out of corruption. We know this. That is why in the budget of the federal government, according to budget, over 7.3 trillion were inserted, meant to be stolen and looted out. That is why you have in a country where a solar light is sold for 150,000. Somebody is budgeting 27 million naira for it because of excess reflected cost of stealing and thieving and corruption. We know the kind of things to do. Nigerians are not lazy. The average Nigerian can easily generate between 150 to 300,000 naira every month on their own, if they are with their limbs and legs intact. We expect the government to do the right thing, slay insecurity, hand over security back to the people, just like we had it between 1960 to 1963. When the people are able to handle their security, slay insecurity, they will go out there. Nigerians are not lazy. We're some of the most resilient people on earth. We don't need Babia like gifted from government to survive. We don't need 8,000 intervention by whatever name they call it.
Okay.
What these governments have been doing over the last years is a lazy way of impoverishing the people.
So, Dr. Nnaemeka, Dr. Nnaemeka, so you're saying, Dr. Nnaemeka, you're saying slay insecurity. You're also saying kill corruption. Now, these are, well, they're deeply rooted wounds in the Nigerian system. You can't. We've been trying for, well, over decades now. But you also talked about the fact that you can actually make more jobs. And I think that those are the suggestions that perhaps need to be out there more. How else can we make these jobs available for regular Nigerians so that we do not have to resort to taxing more and more commodities? What other things can they do when it comes to the aspect of creating jobs or opportunities or developing or skills acquisition and all of that? That isn't too far reaching.
I've tried to explain this to you because of the time constraint. I'll give you an example. There is something that I and my team are doing now in Nigeria. We discovered that Nigeria is not able to rev up activity in the agro sector because we lack technology, we lack mechanizations, we lack a lot of things, and which are problems that will help us create wealth when we provide solutions and create jobs. We clearly understood in this country we lose over 3.5 trillion naira annually on post-harvest losses. How do we mitigate it? It's creating solutions and jobs. What did we do? Netherlands, with a land mass of 1.5 million hectares, have tractor population of about 5 tractors, 1 tractor to 5 hectares. In Nigeria today, to be able to meet up that based on our arable land mass, we have about 2 to 3 million tractors, but what we have is 24,000. Netherlands has over 39,000 smart farmhouses. Kenya, small Kenya, has about 175,000. In Nigeria, only about 4,000. We need at least 2 million smart farmhouses to be able to ramp up production in Nigeria and reduce the cost of agro production. And to do this, we require almost about $100 billion private sector capital inflow. And that is what we are trying to do, aggregate and bring in most of these things, bring in tractors, bring in bulldozers, bring in smart farmhouses, train people and engage them into productive purpose, into productive activities. And interestingly, what we expect government to do, for example, since we need 2 million tractors, we have only 24,000, most of them moribund. A thinking government will have said, okay, we don't produce tractors, we don't produce bulldozers, we don't produce processing equipment, we don't produce refrigerated trucks that will help us reduce harvest losses. A smart thinking government will have just passed an executive order. Any private sector investor that can bring in these things that will catalyze production, reduce poverty in Nigeria, they will give them zero tariff. And you don't need anything, just bring the invoice, import them, government will scan them at the custom entry point and bring them in. Ramp up productivity, ramp up activities, bring down poverty and raise revenue in Nigeria. But in Nigeria, for you to even bring in those things, they put in a humongous laws that allow public sector corruption to spread through down. You need to apply to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, get letter of waiver, apply to the Federal Ministry of Finance. It will take almost about 4 months. We've been on this. So basically, out of frustration, nobody even bothers to go to them. We bring it in, pay taxes to customs, and then put back the cost on the consumers, which does not make sense. This government, we've advised them, even previous governments, especially the governors and local government chairmen, there's always this much emphasis on Abuja. We are not even looking at the subnational units. Most of the problems are at the state and local government level because of the Land Use Act. If the federal governments are sincere and those operators at the federal level, what they should have been doing is coordinating activities at the subnational level, synergizing programs and policies that will enable us to ramp up production, catalyze activities in the real sector of the economy, and bring about security that will allow. So let me tell you, the truth is, there is no country naturally blessed by God like Nigeria. There is no country that have the kind of resilient human beings, the kind of things that happen in Nigeria. If half of it happen in the Western world, everywhere will go up in flames. But our people know if you push them to the wall, they will dig holes in the wall and they will go in. What we need in Nigeria are competent, compassionate, honest, and sincere leaders. In the mode of Jokonde, in the mode of Michael Obara, in the mode of Sabon Bakwe, people who will galvanize the people, rally them, put in place programs, policies, honest intervention schemes that will enable our people go back to work. 130 million Nigerians are practically doing nothing. Unemployment is almost about 34%. It does not make sense. Look at Singapore. 1 out of every 15 Singaporean is a dollar millionaire. I say it here truly. If we have sincere governments across the 3 tiers and arms of government, people in the place of power authority who do the right things, we can actually have 1 out of every 1,000 Nigerians, even though they're being a millionaire in dollar.
All right, now, Dr. Nnaemeka, now they also argue that this 5% tax is actually supposed to help when it comes to transportation. Now, if you argue that this is not the way to go, how can you maybe propose a system where transportation would be at the center? Because that seems to be the bone of contention here. If you are able to cure the transportation issues, you are creating free flow of goods and services, prices come down, and that's their aim. But no, don't tax the people is what you're saying. How else can we get there to help the transport system in Nigeria or the apparatus?
I give you an example. Like I said, Nigerians are not lazy. Annually, it's estimated that we lose over 3.5 trillion naira of our agro outputs to post-harvest losses because of poor storage and poor logistics facilities available. And we've done the numbers. To be able to solve the poor logistics available, we need at least 25,000 refrigerated trucks. We need hundreds of thousands of smart farmhouses. We need many more processing factories coming up here. And thankfully, the National Assembly passed a law that says you cannot export anything without processing it 30%. We can't process it with our fingers. Equipment is needed, and we don't produce most of this equipment. Smart thinking government, like I said, will have put 0 tariff or 5% tariff on buses, on those refrigerated trucks that will enable us to produce and transport and export those at a cheaper cost. Today, it is not like that. If you go to bring in anything, it's almost about 70%. And that cost will drive inflation and be passed back to the consumers. They are not thinking that way. The truth is that we know, I've shared with you what we will do. And then on the energy, today, a liter of the PMS says at 864 naira. In Lagos, in our outskirts of the southeast, almost about 1,000 per liter. I've shared with us in your program here some time ago how we can actually privatize those 3 federal government-owned refineries under a PPP framework, 20% owned by NNPC, 30% by core investors with deep capacity, and then 50% on Nigeria and list on the floor, and how we can actually use the crude allocation meant for it under a build, operate with fixed margin of 30% on it. Under such structures, we have an elaborate framework developed for this. We will sell PMS a liter in Nigeria at a cost of not more than 600 naira per liter, irrespective of what happens in the global market, which is almost a 40% drop on the current prices. It will impact and cheapen cost of transportation. We know what to do, but the problem is that what we have, I'm sorry to use that word, we have people who are mentally weak in place of power in Nigeria, who are not creative thinkers, and who are not sincere, and who are not patriotic. All they want, and you don't even aggregately, over 48 to 52 trillion naira was budgeted across the 3 tiers of government for 2025. And I tell you without missing word, over 50% of these funds that are supposed to go into critical infrastructure, even recorded, are looted into. That's why if you go from Maitama to Asokoro, even to Banana Land here, most of the properties are owned by public servants, civil servant politicians, empty. But they don't know that's how they launder their money. Either they buy properties or they buy dollar and they will start shutting their bed. Because they are not thinking, they can't even engage in any productive activities that will create job and create profitability in Nigeria. So it is so painful. We know what to do. I sit down here, I have a booklet of what we can do, when we can do it, how we can do it, sector by sector, across the 3 tiers and arms of government. I shared with the governors of the North how they can create oils of wealth, date palm plantations, and agro parks. I shared with the governors of the Southeast and governors of the Southwest. I've shared with many of them. I've been privileged to speak in that. I shared with them, even replicating what Michael Obiaraeri and Jokonde did.
All right, Dr.
They know the truth.
All right, Dr.
These
Nnaemeka.
guys are mentally lazy not to do anything right.
All right,
Dr. Nnaemeka, thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you join us this morning, but because of time, we have to let you go, and for sure, we'll always reach out to talk more about what's happening in Nigeria.
And that handbook that you have, the handbook of, suggestions.
Please share it with us.
Please share with us. We need to have it maybe even published. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
I will. Thank you very much.
So my name is Queen Celestine, and you're still watching Breakfast Extra, and this is the headlines. Hello, welcome back. My name is Queen Celestine, and you are still watching Breakfast Extra, and these are the headlines. We begin in the energy sector, where Nigeria's Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has said that the removal of the petrol subsidy has significantly boosted state revenues. Speaking on Thursday at the National Health Financial Dialogue in Abuja, Edun revealed that since the subsidy was removed, state funds have doubled, enabling them to contribute more effectively to critical sectors like healthcare. He described the subsidy removal as a tough but necessary decision that helped restore fiscal balance not only at the federal level but also across the states. Edun pointed out that the petrol subsidy was a major distortion benefiting a small number of people and foreign entities consuming about 2.5% of Nigeria's GDP. And still in the energy sector, the federal government has introduced a 5% surcharge on fossil fuel products to take effect from January 2026, including petrol and diesel under a new tax act. The levy becomes chargeable at the earliest occurrence of supply, sale, or payment and will be calculated based on retail prices. According to the law, the Federal Inland Revenue Service will administer and collect the surcharge monthly, with the minister empowered to fix its commencement date through an official gazette. However, the surcharge will not apply to clean or renewable energy, household kerosene, cooking gas, and compressed natural gas. Clean energy, as defined by the Act, includes solar, wind, hydropower, geothermal, and plant or animal waste, which are renewable and environmentally friendly. And to security matters now, the Defense Headquarters says that Nigerian troops have eliminated key terrorist commanders allegedly responsible for various attacks on innocent citizens within the last 1 month. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Marcus Kenya, while giving an operational update to newsmen in Abuja, says that some of the terrorists hibernating in communities in Plateau State were also picked up during assault operations, while terrorists, kidnappers, and gun runners were also arrested by troops.
Troops eliminated some key terrorist commanders during firefights as well as through air bombardment. They have also arrested terrorists, kidnappers, and other criminals. The likes of Adamu Buba, otherwise known as My Panshin in Rion, and Abdullah Abubakar, who have been terrorizing Rafiki village in Basa local government area of Plateau State, were taken off while 2 suspected gun runners were arrested along Koi Kefi Road in Jama'a local government area of Kaduna State. Similarly, 2 suspected kidnappers identified as Mohammed Sanusi and Usman Al-Haji Bala were arrested in Obajena, local government areas of Kogi State.
Meanwhile, Edo State's war on cultism and violent crime is recording fresh gains. The Special Security Squad, codenamed Operation Flush Out Cultists and Kidnappers, has arrested 9 suspected cultists and recovered firearms in Ovia Northeast, continuing its push to restore peace across the state. We have details in this next report.
For residents of Igwoshodin, Nikbemaba, relief has finally returned after weeks of unease. Security operatives moved in on the community, responding to intelligence that cult groups were terrorizing locals. By the end of the operation, 9 suspects were in custody. Firearms, including Beretta pistols, cut-to-size double-barrel guns, and AK-47 ammunition were all recovered.
But we had a distress call that some cult members in Ome community in Ovia Northeast local government area were constituting nuisance. On before this day, report has, been going around at these places because some of the neighbors have been reporting these issues before we swing into actions. And on getting to this location, during our raids, we were able to arrest 9 persons. After search being carried out immediately, we found arms that they used to perpetuate acts here. And some of these members are members of the Eye court group. If you could even do your interview, you would see some of the persons were not just only celebrating, they were even pointing fingers at some of them that were really notorious persons in the community. So I believe we've done a great job, and Edo will be happy again.
Authorities say the suspects are linked to the Eye Confraternity, a group known for violent clashes across the state. The arms were traced to a property linked to the Okaigele of Omi Osazua Igbinewaka, now declared wanted for allegedly fueling unrest. This latest raid is part of a string of operations in recent weeks, with the Special Security Squad intensifying its crackdown on cult groups and kidnappers across Edo.
We saw some Berettas. I'm not really a gun person, but the ones that we saw, I think those are not guns for civilians. Apart from the one that I usually am used to, the Koto size, that the barrel size cut, but the other I think is a police kind of weapon that was attached there and some other bullets recovered.
Edo security forces say this is only the beginning. With more raids expected, the state government insists criminals will have nowhere left to hide.
Security forces flooded Guinea's capital, Conakry, on Friday ahead of planned protest against a September 21st constitutional referendum. Opposition coalition Leaving Forces of Guinea accuses junta leader General Mamadi Doumbouya of using the vote to cement his power, while military rulers say it will restore constitutional order. Protests banned since 2022 were met with a heavy police presence in opposition strongholds, with officers armed and an armored vehicle on standby. The National Front of the Defense of the Constitution said security forces fired warning shots Thursday and abducted 5 activists, allegations authorities have not addressed. Doumbouya seized power in a 2021 coup, and the proposed constitution could alter restrictions on his eligibility to contest for the elections. And that's all for the headlines. And let's go on a break, and when we come back, more conversations in Breakfast Extra.
An hour here for Breakfast Extra for Saturday edition, and our next big story. Well, it takes us inside the People's Democratic Party, where the countdown to the National Convention scheduled for November 15 and 16 in Ibadan is already marked by tension. A group loyal to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, comprising former governors and heavyweight stakeholders, has issued a 6-point demand: fresh congresses in Ebonyi and Anambra, a new Southeastern Zonal Congress, respect for the court-recognized South-South Congress, immediate Ekiti LGA congresses, strict adherence to NEC guidelines without microzoning, and retention of the national chairmanship in the North Central. Now, they insist that ignoring these demands risks invalidating the entire convention and excluding legitimate members from the process. In response, PDP's leadership, including National Chairman Umar Damagun and Governors Forum Chair Bala Mohammed, have pledged that the convention will go ahead as planned. They argue that unity and discipline must prevail and that no one faction should dictate the direction of the party through ultimatums.
So what does this really mean for party unity, credibility, and the PDP's larger role in Nigeria's opposition politics? To help us unpack this, we are joined by Judge Turner, Zonal Secretary of the PDP South-South Zone. Mr. Turner, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to see you again.
Good morning. Good morning. Mr. Turner, let's start with the issue, the heart of this matter. Are these 6-point demands from Wike's camp about ensuring fairness within the PDP, or are they more about power consolidation?
Okay, let me first of all make the point that in a political group, a political platform like the PDP, having what people call cartels or group or leanings or interests collections as it were, are normal because it's politics we are playing. And politics is played along interest line, It's actually a struggle and conspiracy, for control of man and resources, for betterment of the people, who ultimately benefit. Now, the 6 points that the eminent stakeholders and concerned citizens under the leadership of the FCT Minister, Chief Dr. Wike, has given out, it's actually meant to save the party. Because what we have simply done is to call the attention of the party to critical issues that could jeopardize either the convention or its outcome. And don't forget, the implication of this convention is that we are going there to elect national officers, new set of national officers. And you know that it is these national officers that will preside over the conduct of primaries for 2027 elections. So once we get it wrongly, if we get it wrong at this level of convention, then you can be sure that we'll be putting something on nothing and it will definitely collapse. We don't want to fall in those unfortunate situations where the court comes up tomorrow to nullify elections that people would have worked very hard to win. What are we simply saying? For instance, the issues in Ebonyi and Anambra and Southeast and South-South zone, issues that have already received judicial pronouncements. Now, a party in opposition must respect the rule of law, must do things in line with the dictates of both our constitution and what the law says. And so, ordinarily, should anybody be asking the party or reminding the party to respect judicial pronouncements? The answer is no. And then don't forget, once you have people who are not legitimate delegates participate in that convention, it nullifies, it becomes a nullity ab initio. For instance, I'll give you a case in Southeast. The then chairman of national vice chairman of Southeast, Honorable Ali Odefa, has been expelled by his ward. That expulsion has been ratified by the local government structure of the party and the state. Now, the Federal High Court in Abakaliki have also affirmed that expulsion. And in that judgment, it is important to emphasize that the court said that any meeting of the PDP attended by Ali Odefe is clothed in illegality and it is null and void. Now, Ali has been carrying on as though he is still the national vice chairman of the party, attending next meetings. These next meetings are fixing conventions, inaugurating this and that committee, and Ali is going to participate in a convention, and all of that will be putting something on nothing. And then again, Ali was also the one who now convened a Southeast Zonal Congress that elected a group of people who now say they are Southeast executive of the Southeast zone of the party. All of this is clothed in illegality. Even that Congress they held was restrained by the court not to go ahead, but they proceeded. So we are simply, under the leadership of the State Minister, we are simply pointing out these issues. And look, when people say the FCT Minister is not interested in the party survival or in the party survival law, he wants to kill the party, it is his actions show otherwise. If these are weapons, ordinarily anybody will hold on to, to cripple the party at the right time. But he is rather pointing them out. Gentlemen, there are court decisions in Ebonyi, court decisions in Anambra, court decisions in the Southeast. Take the South case, for instance. The Federal High Court even went as far as restraining the PDP having any dealing whatsoever with Chief Gidi and a certain caretaker committee.
Mr. Turner.
The party continues, to carry on as if there are no consequences. But these judicial cases do not just have the party. INEC are also parties to these cases. So at the end of the day, we have issues. Then let me just touch on the zoning before, so I can lay proper. On the zoning committee that we had.
Right.
Had come up with the zoning committee came up with a fine report and said status quo should be maintained between the north and the south. That was perfect. And we agree in total because it is also in line with the constitution. It is constitutional. Now what happens is that if the constitution provided that a national officer is elected to serve for 4 years and is entitled to 6 second term to be re-elected for another 4 years after that no more. So if you do a zoning that shuts a national officer who is in his first term now out for the race, that's a constitutional breach on the rights of such an officer. So we are saying that since we have agreed at the national that zoning the status quo should remain, it should also travel down to the regions where we have these micro zonings. So if the national secretary is in the southeast, right? Since we have agreed it should remain in southern region, it should also remain in southeast. That's why we said there should be no further micro zoning beyond what we have at the moment. And that is why we say that the national chairman must remain in the north central. So these are some of the issues,
Okay,
that
Mr.
we
Turner,
need to deal with.
Mr. Turner, based on what you've said, if I heard you correctly, you were saying that if they don't adhere to the 6-point demands that Minister Wike gave, it's going to affect and it could disenfranchise part of the party. So if some people are ignoring this and going ahead with the convention, don't you think that this is now going to give an upper hand to APC and cause chaos in PDP as a party?
No, it is going to be catastrophic, I can assure you. Because what will happen is that you would have deprived legitimate delegates to that convention and then now allow illegitimate delegates to participate in the convention. Of course, you know the consequences that will follow. Everything that is done in that convention will collapse. And that is what Nyesom, the FCT minister, does not want. He loves this party with his heart. He has done so much for this party. The party runs in his DNA. Ordinarily, he shouldn't bother. But, anything called by his name is too important to him. And he doesn't want this party to fail.
Turner, let me take you on
and that is why he's pointing out...
Mr. Turner, let me take you on that now. Now, you say that the FCT minister actually bleeds PDP. From everything and every explanation that you've given this morning regarding the 6-point agenda, everything sort of like seems very, very proper, orderly. And also to go with the constitution of the PDP, you are actually saying the truth. It seems that it's correct. However, what about the issue of timing? Because these kinds of issues, when you raise them at specific times, they have the tendency to destabilize whatever processes are on ground. The convention, for instance, in November 15 and 16. If these issues are coming up now, what is it costing the PDP? Its harmony, its unity. What is it costing it in terms of what people on the outside, the voters, people who are loyal to the PDP think about the party with the disunity that seemingly is rocking it currently, especially this close to the state elections in 2026 and then the presidential elections in 2027. So are these considerations being put in, being taken to mind is my question.
You see, once the right thing is done and we do away with impunity and we bring us, we'll come down from our high horses and do the right thing, there will be no crisis. I really don't see any crack or disunity, as it were. What we are just saying is, look, do the right thing. Obey the rule of law. There are court decisions, respect them. It doesn't matter if those who are benefiting belong to a clique or a group or we're all one. It's the same party and the same one PDP. And it is not late. It is rather better raised now, than, to be too late to listen when the head is chopped off. So if we travel in this illegality and then we go into convention, spend resources, man and material, and then at the end of the day, it is nullified for just one simple thing that adhering to the rule of law would have resolved. In 2019, don't forget, the APC could not produce a candidate for any election in Rivers State. In Zamfara, you saw those who won were dismissed. And it goes on and on. So these things happened in our very before. So why do you take this risk? Because you don't like SMEs? So because you hate somebody, you prefer that, the whole house to collapse? That is not what we want. That is not what Chief Nyesom Wike wants. It's our party. We love this party so much and want the right thing to be done. It is, look, everything that Wike have insisted. You see Wike, wherever you see rule of law, you find Wike there. Wherever you see justice, equity, and fairness, you find Wike there. This man came and said, look, let's respect the decision of the Supreme Court with respect to the National Secretary. It became an issue until they saw reasons with him. This man said, look, let us zone the presidency. President Muhammadu Buhari done 8 years. Let's zone the presidency to the southern part of Nigeria. We refuse. We grandstanded and all the things that arrogance and everything. Look at where we are today. Today they have come back to say, oh, you were right. They have zoned the presidency to the. Again, the 6 points. Why don't we come down and look at these issues? They are not rocket science. Look at these issues and how do they are the party today and tomorrow and take the best decision in interest of the party. So I really feel that those who are allowing ego, ego play to come in because maybe you don't want it to look as if because Wike have raised these issues and if we go this way, Nigerians will look as if and Wike is taking everything on Wike is winning. No, it's not about winning. It's not about who is winning and who is losing. It's about the survival of the party. And I would really, really want to appeal to our leaders, to give reasoning a chance. Look at these issues that the eminent leaders and consultants have raised and see how best to. In fact, let me tell you, at the last NEC meeting, the NEC agreed that there is the need to conduct fresh congresses in Anambra and Ebonyi in line with the decisions of subsisting of the court.
Right.
I mean, it's in the interest of the party, really.
So, Mr. Turner, you have stated clearly that, the 6-point agenda is correct. And now we have just few weeks to this stated convention. What do you think? What steps can, the PDP take to project unity and, not division? Because really, if it continues like this and, it's divided and they go ahead with the convention, then we're sure that there's going to be chaos. So what step can they take to project unity?
Yeah, leadership must be focused. We must do away with ego, egoism and egocentric behaviors. We must come down and respect the rule of law. Where there are court decisions, respect those judgments. The national chairman we have today became acting national chairman on the strength of judicial pronouncement. I mean, there are no two ways about it. The court have said something, we have to obey. We are Nigerians. And if a party struggling to bounce back to power cannot obey simple judgments or decisions of court, then what are we telling the ordinary Nigerians out there? So it's important that we do the right thing, and then show leadership. Let's drop hatred and, it's a Wike, you don't like Wike. No, why is Wike the one raising this issue? No, leave the messenger, look at the message. Are there merits? Are these things that will save this party tomorrow? If yes, do the right thing. That is the essence of leadership.
Oh. Well, Mr. Turner, real quick, there's a certain argument out there, and I hope that you'd actually summarize your answer here regarding the role that Wike plays in all of this, destabilizing the PDP. Now, this is an argument, not mine. I just want you to tell us what you think. Do you feel that these demands are actually serving to destabilize the PDP to the benefit of other parties? That's a very direct question because it's an argument.
To destabilize the party, he will not point out these landmines. He will keep to himself. And like I said, these are bombs. These are heavy weapons that can be used to collapse the party at any moment. So he will not have any business raising them. He will keep them close to his chest and allow them to travel with their convention. And then once they finish, he will come with all of this.
At what time should he have raised these issues? So close to the convention?
We have always been on this. For instance, you should know the issue about South Zone has always been on. Wike has kept talking about these issues, and we had too many issues. We had the issue of National Secretary. We had the issue of South Zone. We have too many issues, and they are not listening. They are not listening. That is the point. They are not listening. They should listen. Okay. They should listen and do the right thing.
All right.
It doesn't take anything to do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Turner. Thank you for joining us. He is the Zonal Secretary of the South Zone. Thank you.
For the PDP. Thank you very much, Mr. Judge.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Well, we've got more conversation coming your way inside this second hour. Do stay with us. We've got another big report all the way from Delta in just a bit. Welcome back again. Another big report this hour. The Delta State Police Command has arrested a 52-year-old woman, a self-proclaimed pharmacist, who is suspected to be a major drug dealer. Now, security operatives uncovered illicit substances valued at over 80 million naira in her chemist shop in Afishere community, Ugili North local government area, exposing what police describe as one of the largest seizures in recent months. In addition to the drug bust, police confirmed the arrest of several other suspects linked to armed robbery, car theft, and unlawful possession of arms and also ammunition. The operation, which authorities say is part of a broader security sweep, reflects growing concern about criminal syndicates operating in parts of Delta State and their impact on local communities. Now, here's our News Central correspondent, Austin Azu, with the full report on this matter.
Alongside other security agencies, have been intensifying its crackdown on drug traffickers across the states. At the Ugili Area Command, the Commissioner of Police, represented by the command's spokesperson Bright Edafe, briefed journalists on the latest breakthroughs in the fight against drug cartels and other criminals terrorizing communities.
As you can see behind me, you discover that there are lots of drugs. These drugs you are seeing behind me, they are worth close to 80 million naira. And these are not ordinary drugs. These are controlled drugs. These are drugs that will cry and say that our youths are using to destroy themselves. Drugs that are driving some of our youths mad. Drugs that pushes some of them to go as far as committing murder, like the case we had in Sapele, and also one we presently have in the anti-kidnapping unit, where a young man took drugs and used machetes to machete the father's head in an attempt to kill him. These are what drugs are doing to our youths. And this is sad because these are also what some persons are using as a source of livelihood.
Police say those arrested also include armed robbers, car snatchers, and other suspects linked to violent crimes in Delta State.
The second on my list is on a particular suspect that has been on the command wanted list. His name is Samson Ugbe, aka Big Man. We had two incidences last year. The one where the wife of an honorable member of the House of Assembly there was an attempt to kidnap her, where two of her aides, two mobile policemen, were shot dead. We also have a case where about 180 bags of rice were stolen from a warehouse, of which we went to Ekpan police station and paraded some of the receivers and also showcased some of the rice. And also the robbery at Western Delta University in Ogara. These three cases are all tied to this suspect, Big Man.
Items recovered from the suspects include illicit drugs, firearms, cartridges, and vehicles. Meanwhile, the Delta State government has pledged continued support for security agencies, urging them to intensify efforts to rid the state of drugs and criminal gangs. In Delta, for News Central, Austin Azu.
And to summarize, a multi-pronged operation by the Delta State Police has led to the arrest of a suspected drug kingpin and several accomplices tied to violent crimes. It is a reminder of the nexus between drug trafficking, illegal arms, and community insecurity in Nigeria's oil-rich south. And joining us now to further unpack this are Austin Azu, our News Central correspondent, and Ese Agbobore, majority leader of the Ugili North legislative arm. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Good morning. Austin, let me start with you.
Good morning, Queen. Good morning, Zeno.
Good morning. Austin, let me start with you. Can you just tell us how significant this raid was in terms of, the impact and the scale as, shown in the report with the drugs and the arms? What did you observe on ground.
Yes, first and foremost, we should quite understand quite well that the issue of drug abuse and illicit drugs across the state has become a nightmare to every stakeholder, and everyone seems to be worried about the impacts which it creates in our society. And the crimes we have in our society are traceable to drugs, and 80 to 90% of them are results of drug intakes. And some other places, in some other parts of the state, we have traditional rulers placing calls on them, and even some religious centers actually campaigning against it, and the Delta State government is equally hammering on it. So the one that took place in Ughelli recently about the harvest of the Delta State Police Command over these drug peddlers and traffickers is one of the significant aspects of what the security agencies are doing to ensure they are able to curtail these excesses in our society. Just a few days ago, we saw the NDLA went to the local government area to go and meet the local government chairman, where they had a synergy where they intend to fight drugs and illicit drugs in those local areas. So the significance of this remains the fact that if they are able to get information to those drug traffickers, at least we'll be able to curtail most of these sales. Imagine someone in possession of over 80 million naira drugs. Imagine the impact on our youth. Just like what the PPRO rightly stated on that video, you can see that most of the crimes being committed within those areas, one way or the other, this particular drug dealer is part of it. Because there's no way one will say that those people who are committing crimes, they will go into their activities without taking drugs or whatever. And this to say that this is not the first time this person who is into this kind of huge business is doing it. So it means that this person has been doing it for a very long time. And from what the police said, it was based on intent, intelligence, and information gathered that led to the arrest of this suspect. It's very quite pathetic that we have this scenario, ravaging our society, and much needed to be done to ensure that we're able to, reduce this issue of drug abuse and illicit drugs in our society. Most of these drugs have been prescribed, and these drugs are not allowed to be sold to individuals except based on doctor prescription. Imagine a situation whereby one is claiming to be a pharmacist, and you concede these drugs in a first aid box, all in attempt for you to hide it away from the public, and thereafter you begin to sell them to people with intention of destroying our society. It's a really big plus to security agency. It's a really big plus to our citizens. But however, more needs to be done to ensure we are able to curtail these excesses. This is just one isolated. In many of these cases we have in our rural areas, because most of these drugs are not being displayed in the public domain. Most of them are sold in the hidden places. Even you as an individual, you can't access that place if you are not informed about whatever is going on there. And from information we gathered so far, that before you will be able to access that place, you will be scrutinized, you will be screened, because they have their agents. These agents, they are stationed at different locations. As soon as you are coming in, they started profiling you. Who is this person? Where is he going to? Where are you going to? And issues like that. So we need more collaboration. The security agencies need to intensify their operational standard. And of course, our citizens as well need to provide more information to security agencies for them to be able to get into the roots of those places, so that they'll be able to flush these people out. Because if you are able to reduce this issue of drug abuse, illicit drug sales, I tell you for free, from advantage position, that crime will reduce to a bare minimum in our society.
All right, Austin. Thank you very much, Austin. Austin, great information there about this bust and the drugs that were found and how it links to crime. Now, however, I have a question for Esi Akpobore. As a legislator, majority leader, Ughelli North, I'm wondering, my simple question is Ughelli becoming a hub for drugs, drug use, and drug trafficking?
Morning to you.
Morning.
When we came into office last year, the first meeting we had with the executive chairman of Ughelli North local government is security. And that security has to do with total removal of drug abuse in Ughelli North. So for over 1 year now, you can see the differences in Ughelli North. Recently, the woman that was arrested for drug selling and all that was paraded by the Nigerian police. You saw the nature and the kind of drugs she's selling to youth. So such a woman would have not been arrested if the state government and the local government they are not against the drug abuse.
What kind of drugs were these being sold to youth?
The drugs being funded in the shops, in the store, our chemist store. We have, according to the police report, they were tramadol, codeine, and other kind of drugs.
Okay. So back to my earlier question, why is Ughelli a spot for the use of these kinds of drugs? What led to it being a place where people can simply say, oh, you can get tramadol or codeine, even from chemists or from unscrupulous chemists? Why is Ughelli a hub for drug trafficking and use?
I won't really say Ughelli is a hub for drug trafficking. I won't want to agree with you.
Okay.
Drug trafficking is all over the states, all over the country, it's all over the world. So, but Ughelli is just one place that I think we need more sensitization, of which we have been doing through the office of the local government chairman.
Okay,
so as I speak to you now,
so
we can say Ughelli is no longer a hub for drugs.
Okay, so I'm asking this specifically because I'm trying to get to the root cause. Because if people are using drugs, I can get it off of the street, then it must mean that there is something that there's an absence somewhere else. Are youths empowered? Do they have jobs? Could this be the reason why people find extra time, free time to actually, indulge in drugs? If you say it's not trafficking, then that means it's not about the business of it all. It's not about, making money from drug sales. It's about the use. So why are the youth prone to using drugs in Ughelli? Are they jobless, for instance, is my question.
And the truth is that we know this drug of 15 is common among youth, and the population of Ughelli is a very large population. I think in the whole of Delta State now, apart from Warri, there's no town or a city that is more populated than Ughelli. So when you have strangers, and because of the hospitality of the Ughelli people come from different places to live here in Ughelli. So most of the people who even taking drugs, selling drugs, they are not from here. The woman arrested recently selling drugs, paraded by the Nigerian police, she's not from Ughelli. She's not even from Delta State. So you see, because we are hospitable people, we accommodate people, we don't segregate whether you are from here or not. Strangers now come into our town to spoil our youth with drugs. But when we came into power, the local government have decided that henceforth, we will no longer tolerate illicit drugs in our local government. And you can see the fight already ongoing.
Right. So Austin, my question now for you will be, like you mentioned earlier, was more of a whistleblower for the police or the authorities to be able to find this mysterious chemist that's been there. Can you tell us if they told you how long this operation has been running and how, how it was detected? How did they get someone to tell them where the chemist was?
Like I rightly said earlier on, most of police investigation and arrest are based on intent and intelligence gathering. They have their own informants that provide them with necessary information. And of course, as soon as they are able to get rightful information for them to strike, they don't hesitate. And there's no way more information gathered over the years, over the period of time, will not lead positive sources. So obviously, the one in question in Ughelli was based on tracking. And the tracking involves a situation whereby the suspect considered most of these hard drugs in in first aid box. Okay. And imagine someone who just walked into the pharmacy or the chemist as claimed by the suspect. They just went straight to the first aid box, unbundled it, and thereafter started bringing out those drugs. It means there was a right information on ground that the police worked with for them to get that kind of harvest. So it has been like that over the years, and they have been working assiduously in collaboration with the locals, in collaboration with their informant, to ensure they are able to get most of these suspects arrested. And that equally goes to those other criminals involved in violent crimes in the state. So they act based on intelligence, and most of these police informants, they live among themselves, they live among them, and they are well within their communities. So that is why one needs to be very careful with whatever you are doing, because the long arm of the law will surely catch up with you. No matter how long you have been involved in this kind of illegal businesses, one of these days you will surely face the consequences of damaging our society, of killing our people by what you intentionally. Yes,
Austin, what I wanted to know is, did the police say how long that chemist has been running?
Pardon, I didn't get you correctly.
Did the police give you the exact, did they say, okay, the chemist has been running for a year, 2 years, 3 years? How long has that chemist been there before they discovered the lady
operating with this illegal business?
Okay, fine. Yes, of course, the police didn't actually specify the duration at which the self-acclaimed pharmacy has been operating within that environment, but they said they monitored the process for a very long time before they finally, went to the place to go and arrest the suspect. So it has been ongoing for a very long time. So for such person to be in those kind of business, it means the person has put in more time in it. Over 80 million.
Austin, just a second. I hope you can hear me. We're running out of time, Austin, and I wanted to pitch a question to you, which I had pitched to Essay from earlier, regarding the population of Ughelli and how drugs and drugs trafficking plays in there. And I was asking what I could paraphrase and say what the major occupation of most of the people who live in Ughelli is. And I mean the youth now, who are prone to use drugs like tramadol and the rest. I'm trying to get to exactly why there is why there seems to be a prevalence of these illegal use of these kinds of drugs there. Are youths empowered? Are youths jobless? What exactly is the state of the regular Ughelli youth? Austin, please.
Last census, including from the last election conducted, you discover that they have a huge population in terms of their voter strength and so on and so forth. And Ughelli is not just the Ughelli town precisely. You have other areas, other communities, other sub-towns that are attached to the Ughelli vis-a-vis. And Ughelli landmarks is very big. You have Ughelli North, you have Ughelli South. So combined together and other areas within the Ughelli landmarks, you discover that they have a very huge population which cut across the youth, the aged, and the children. So it's a huge population to go with.
Thank you, Austin. So, Essay, now that we know that there is a huge youth population, what are you doing as a legislator to try and make sure that youth are occupied?
First, what we are doing, when we came into government just about a year ago, we decided to initiate some bills that have to do with the establishment of a skill acquisition center, a job creation center in the council, which under the directives of the local government chairman, we are working on a place whereby we can be gathering CVs of all graduates. We source for the local government, we source for jobs for them. Then if you want to be skill trained, like a skill acquisition, the local government will also train you and empower you, which we have started. Just yesterday, the local government chairman gave out some startup parts to some persons in one of the local governments. And I believe with time, if we do it continuously, as time goes on, our youth will be empowered. We know the job issue is all over the country. It's not only in Ughelli North, but the chairman is working seriously to make sure that we reduce it to the minimum level of joblessness. But it's not even about joblessness. is someone that have money that will go and buy drugs. A poor person cannot afford drugs. So it's not just about the jobs or about being unemployed. So that is why we need to do more sensitization and drug awareness for our people, which local government chairman has directed all community youth chairmen, all community presidents, and all security outfits, empower them financially to begin the war against drug abuse.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us and sharing more light about the drug trafficking in Ogeli.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, let's go on a break. When we come back, Queen here will be bringing us more updates inside of the news. We'll be right back. We run.
Welcome back. My name, of course, is Queen Celestine, and this is still Breakfast Extra. And these are the headlines. We begin in the energy sector, where Nigeria's Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has said that the removal of the petrol subsidy has significantly boosted state revenues. Speaking on Thursday at the National Health Financing Dialogue in Abuja, Edun revealed that since the subsidy was removed, state funds have doubled, enabling them to contribute more effectively to critical sectors like healthcare. He described the subsidy removal as a tough but necessary decision that helped restore fiscal balance not only at the federal level but also across the state. Edu pointed out that the petrol subsidy was a major distortion benefiting a small number of people and foreign entities consuming about 2.5% of Nigeria's GDP. And still in the energy sector, the federal government has introduced a 5% surcharge on fossil fuel products to take effect from January 2026, including petrol and diesel under a new tax act. The levy becomes chargeable at the earliest occurrence of supply, sale, or payment and will be calculated based on retail prices. According to the law, the Federal Inland Revenue Service will administer and collect the surcharge monthly, with the minister empowered to fix its commencement date through an official gazette. However, the surcharge will not apply to clean or renewable energy, household kerosene, cooking gas, and compressed natural gas. Clean energy, as defined by the Act, includes solar, wind, hydropower, geothermal, and plant or animal waste, which are renewable and environmentally friendly. And to security matters now, the Defense Headquarters says that Nigeria troops have eliminated key terrorist commanders allegedly responsible for various attacks on innocent citizens within the last 1 month. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Marcus Kenya, while giving an operational update to newsmen in Abuja, says that some of the terrorists hibernating in communities in Plateau State were also picked up during assault operations, while terrorists, kidnappers, and gun runners were also arrested by troops.
Eliminated some key terrorist commanders during firefights as well as through air bombardment. They have also arrested terrorists, kidnappers, and other criminals. The likes of Adamu Buba, otherwise known as My Panshin in Rion, and Abdullah Abubakar, who have been terrorizing Rafiki village in Basa local government area of Plateau State. We are taking off while 2 suspected gun runners were arrested along Koi Kefi Road in Jama'a local government area of Kaduna State. Similarly, 2 suspected kidnappers identified as Mohammed Sanusi and Usman Al-Haji Bala were arrested in Obajana local government areas of Kogi State.
Meanwhile, Edo State's war on cultism and violent crime is recording fresh gains. The Special Security Squad, codenamed Operation Flush Out Cultists and Kidnappers, has arrested 9 suspected cultists and recovered firearms in Ovia Northeast, continuing its push to restore peace across the state. We have details in this next report.
For residents of Igwoshodin, Nikpemaba, relief has finally returned after weeks of unease. Security operatives moved in on the community, responding to intelligence that cult groups were terrorizing locals. By the end of the operation, 9 suspects were in custody. Firearms, including Beretta pistols, cut-to-size double-barrel guns, and AK-47 ammunition were all recovered.
But we had a distress call that some court members in Ome community in Ovia Northeast local government area were constituting nuisance. On before this day, report has, been going around at these places because some of the neighbors have been reporting these issues before we swing into actions. And on getting to this location, during our raids, we were able to arrest 9 persons. After search being carried out immediately, we found arms that they used to perpetrate acts here. And some of these members are members of the Eye court group. If you could even do your interview, you would see some of the persons were not just only celebrating, they were even pointing fingers at some of them that were really notorious persons in the community. So I believe we've done a great job, and Edo will be happy again.
Authorities say the suspects are linked to the Eye Confraternity, a group known for violent clashes across the state. The arms were traced to a property linked to the Okaigele of Omi Osazua Igbinewaka, now declared wanted for allegedly fueling unrest. This latest raid is part of a string of operations in recent weeks, with the Special Security Squad intensifying its crackdown on cult groups and kidnappers across Edo.
We saw some Berettas. I'm not really a gun person, but the ones that we saw, I think those are not guns for civilians. Apart from the one that I usually am used to, the cut to size, that the barrel size cut, but the other I think is a police kind of weapon that was attached there and some other bullets recovered.
Edo security forces say this is only the beginning. With more raids expected, the state government insists criminals will have nowhere left to hide.
Security forces flooded Guinea's capital, Conakry, on Friday ahead of planned protest against a September 21st constitutional referendum. Opposition coalition Leaving Forces of Guinea accuses junta leader General Mamadi Doumbouya of using the vote to cement his power, while military rulers say it will restore constitutional order. Protests banned since 2022 were met with a heavy police presence in opposition strongholds, with officers armed and an armored vehicle on standby. The National Front for the Defense of the Constitution said security forces fired warning shots Thursday and abducted 5 activists, allegations authorities have not addressed. Doumbouya seized power in a 2021 coup, and the proposed constitution could alter restrictions on his eligibility to contest further elections. And that's all the headlines at this hour. We're going to go on a short break. When we return, we have more conversations. Stay tuned.
Now it's time for Wellness, and on Wellness Central today, the death of Dr. Oluwafemi Rotifa at River State University Teaching Hospital has become more than a personal tragedy. It's now a symbol of silent crisis plaguing Nigeria's healthcare system. He reportedly collapsed and died after working a 72-hour shift, the only doctor on duty in a busy emergency ward. His colleagues and the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors say this was not an accident, but a predictable outcome of systemic neglect. Too few doctors, too many patients, and no real safeguards for rest and recovery. Doctors across the country are describing a pattern of exploitation, long hours, poor pay, insufficient insurance, and little recognition, all while being asked to carry the weight of a collapsing health system. Many say they are treated as expendable, not essential, with endless appeals of fair working conditions ignored until tragedy strikes. It's no surprise that thousands leave the country every year, part of the ongoing jackpot wave that drains Nigeria of some of its biggest and brightest medical minds. What remains behind is a vicious cycle: overstretched staff, underfunded facilities, and patients who ultimately bear the cost.
And the calls for reform are urgent and pointed. Regulate working hours, improve manpower planning, offer competitive pay, and provide health insurance that actually covers medical workers. Without these, the system continues to fail not only the doctors but also the citizens who depend on them. Today, we examine why this crisis persists and what it will take to stop more lives from being lost, both doctors and patients. And joining us now is Dr. Benjamin Oluwatosin Olowojebutu, I hope I got that right, National First Vice President of the Nigerian Medical Association. And we also have Dr. Alamin Usman. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me start with Dr. Alamin. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Alamin. Let's talk about the situation here in Nigeria before we refer to the specific case of Dr. Rutifa and his death. What are we faced with here in Nigeria after so many years of a brain drain situation? What are we left with, Dr. Alamin?
So thank you so much for having me and for that wonderful question. As you have described early on, Nigeria has faced long term of unregulated, doctors having unregulated working hours for a very long time. And we have been talking about this for a very long time as well. The Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria is the organization that has been saddled with regulating the practice, ensuring safe healthcare, from the doctors towards the patients as well. And for the past 62 years now, since the inception of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, it has looked at every aspect, regulating the whole practice of doctors in Nigeria. However, it fails to look at the most important one, which is the working hours of doctors. So you find, doctors in Nigeria all these years, every single doctor who has gone through, periods of excessive and unregulated working hours, which has detrimental effects as well. And in the same phase, you find doctors not, earning what is adequately, that reflects, the working hours that they have worked. You have doctors working on average 106 hours a week, and more than 400 hours a month. However, at the end of the month, you find most of the doctors earning less than 250,000 naira. So when you sit down and try to figure out how these working hours equate to the number of, the salary that they earn, there is no reasonable explanation for that. So this exploitation by employers as well has gone on for several years, where doctors will just be placed on call, for 72 hours, 96 hours, and just because they can take it, hospitals would be short-staffed, and at the same time, hospital would not employ more doctors because there are doctors available who could, run the hospital, even though the hospital has severe shortage of doctors, and that has been the case in Nigeria, and is one of sorrow and pain, to be honest.
Right. So, Dr. Benjamin, let's talk about the case here, which is the death of Dr. Rutifa. How was your reaction, and how much does this reflect the day-to-day reality of Nigerian doctors? Dr. Benjamin.
Good morning to you. I'm happy to be here again today. It's a very sad situation in the country. We all know that WHO has told us that the ratio of doctors to patients has dwindled in the last 3 years in this country. We have one patient to about 10,000 patients. It means when one doctor dies or when one doctor relocates, we lose the doctor to take care of 10,000 patients. So do the extrapolation. You now have one doctor doing more than three people's job because of the lack of regulation. So I appreciate what Alami has said. You know, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria should also try to regulate the working hours of doctors. Let me give you a scenario. A doctor does a call from 8 p.m. till 8 a.m. in the morning, and he's still expected to work from that 8 a.m. again till 4 p.m. in the afternoon before he goes back home. It's very, very sad that we are overworking the ones that are left in this country. I always say very easily. The population should also understand what the doctors are going through. If, for example, you run a clinic that lasts between 8 o'clock and 2 o'clock every Tuesday, you can stagger the patient and give them more time, so that you don't overwork the doctor and split their time into appointment. But now, because most of the hospitals are driven by profit, driven by number of patients they see, they don't mind putting all the patients on 1 day appointment to overburden the doctor. So the situation is very, very bad. It's very, 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 very bad. We are losing doctors every day. People are getting more ill. We're having people having chronic medical illness now. You have doctors going for dialysis every week, every month again because of this very, very, very severe and very, very bad working environment. So it's not just the inadequate, the long hours, even the inadequate welfare package of the doctor. So you work this hard, you work so much, and there's no money. There is no money. You can't go on with good salaries for your family to see you. So you work hard and you have nothing to show for it. So for me, it's about all of us consciously asking the right questions. The media, the government, the patient, supporting what the doctors are going through and saying, no, enough is enough. You cannot earn $6,900 in 2009 per annum. Now, because of inflation and devaluation, you now earn about $700 per month per annum. That's very, very, very ridiculous, because it doesn't make any sense to anybody living and working in this country. So MMA is very, very passionate about the working hours of doctors in this country. All of us need to speak up and speak the truth.
Now, Dr. Olu, now you just hinted on something that I wanted to find out about. What is health care like for doctors themselves, since they put themselves through so much? We know that we go through so much when it comes to our health care, but we always think that doctors have it at hand. But what is it like for the average Nigerian doctor?
So it's not very true, my brother. Doctors are also human beings. They are not just doctors and they live in another alien world. We are medical doctors, we are human beings before we are doctors. It is very painful that sometimes there are no adequate infrastructure, adequate insurance for us doctors in this country, and we just work until we drop there. So, and most doctors who don't take care of themselves because they don't understand that there's a time to say, I can't work again. Because of our Hippocratic oath, we are driven by love, we are driven by compassion, we keep working to take care of the patients, and we forget to take care of ourselves. So it's important there's a structured way that government should help us structure it, so that we're not also caught in the challenge of not getting adequate healthcare. Let me give a scenario. When you have accident in this country, as a medical doctor, you pay from your pocket. You can imagine paying from your pocket, and that's a lot of money. You have a fracture that costs about $10,000 US. How do you raise that kind of money? So it's important that there is a package. There's a responsibility of government to give insurance to all the doctors in this country working and in this country for now, because we are short-staffed, so that there's a regular checkup that is aligned maybe with the birthday of the doctor, or with the particular day of the year, that a doctor is free from work and goes to do a medical checkup to know what's going on with the person at a particular time. Most times, until the doctors fall ill, we don't know what's actually wrong with them. So I am pleading with the stakeholders and regulators, help us fashion out a medical examination day for all doctors working and living in this country, to help them see what their health condition is. We call it health promotion, not only for the patient, also for the medical doctors. Thank you.
So, Dr. Alamin, I would like to know how, this less ongoing, recurring schedule affect a doctor's ability to treat patients? We understand that, you might be fatigued and all, but just give us a view as a doctor. How will it affect the ability of a doctor to treat patients safely and compassionately?
So, thank you again for that question. We're all doctors, me and Dr. Benjamin right here, and we know the effect of stress on the human body. And as a doctor as well, that effect is not excluded on us. When you get fatigued, when you're sleep deprived, when you're tired, it clouds your judgments, clarity, in making decisions about a patient. So we can deduct or deduce from that when a doctor is tired, his ability to make decisions are not going to be straightforward or very clear when it comes to the patients.
Right.
A patient would come to you and, at a time when you've gone over 72 hours duty straight, when you started, the decisions you will make about a patient are going to be different when you are at your 72 hours or 96 hours. And that would definitely affect, the outcome for, the treatment outcome or the management outcome of that patient. And I will tell you this has gone on for several years, and we're just living in a country where litigation is not really that much right now. And patients are not really aware, of whether they could complain about the services that they have received. And that is why this thing has gone on for several years. If patients become aware, then I tell you, you will find a lot of medical errors that have been, that has gone on in the medical healthcare system in Nigeria, and which is a direct result of this unregulated and heavy and excessive working hours, the burden that is on the doctors. So until we come and, realize the effect of this, excessive working hours and the effect it has on both the doctors and the patient themselves, we're not going to have a better healthcare system in Nigeria, to be honest.
Thank you, Alamin. Dr. Benjamin Olowo, I'm wondering whether there's a connection here. The brain drain that we're seeing in the Nigerian system, doctors going to the UK, to Canada to ply their trade and leaving us here with, well, whoever is left. What should the focus be now? Should the government be trying to stop doctors from looking for greener pastures, or should they be providing for the remaining doctors that are here? What's the best step to take when it comes to policy reform, especially for the medical sector?
So in the Japa syndrome that has happened, that has plagued our doctors in the last few years, there are pulling factors and there are pushing factors. Pushing factor meaning the environment working in this country is not very, very enabling. There are a lot of things happening that doesn't sit well with the doctors or make the work very, very easy for us. I said it before, inflation has eroded all the kind of money we had. In the last few weeks, we almost went into a very, very bad strike that have affected a lot of things in this country. But fortunately, it was averted because of few interventions that NMA took with the government. But that did say we need to have constructive, concerted policies that retains doctors in this country with good welfare packages, enable environment, instruments to do the work, a good security system. Issues that affect doctors. Doctors must be taken very seriously. We can't have doctors owed salaries for over 18 months and not being paid. Those things are not very, very encouraging for doctors in this country. You can't have policies that you've signed with people since 2001, 2009. You are not obeying them. You are not implementing them. Doctors don't have their own insurance scheme in this country. But now I applaud the federal government. We just saw a notice day before yesterday that the president has announced that all civil servants in Nigeria should be registered under the NHIA for insurance. But most times those insurance, they're not premium insurance. They don't help those very, very high-end diseases that affect medical doctors in this country. So for me, the environment must be enabling. Government must be determined to keep doctors in this country by paying them adequate salaries as compared to what other people earn all over the world. Make them feel comfortable living in the housing allowance, scarce skill allowance, rural allowances, teaching allowances, professional allowances should be increased according to international standards. So that doctors, why are they going abroad? It's because that place is very, very safe. They are making more money. So if we can raise that to what is expected of us in this country, they will be happy to stay in this country. So I believe government, the first policy is to try to retain doctors working and living in this country. That will help them know. That will help them know that they are encouraged, they are loved, they feel the government going forward. Thank you.
Dr. Benjamin, thank you very much. We're now being joined by another doctor, Dr. Osundara Tokwe. He's the National Association of Resident Doctors President. Dr. Osundara, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to go straight to it and ask you this question regarding what the structural failures are in the health management system and also governance. How do we allow these kinds of tragedies to continue to happen in Nigeria?
Please, kindly take that again. I didn't quite get that.
So I asked what the structural failures are in health management, in the health sector here in Nigeria. What are they exactly that are seeing us lose doctors to death?
All right. Thank you for having me once again. My name still remains Dr. Osundara Tokwe, and I'm the president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. Part of what has made, has created this quagmire in our health system is because of government's unwillingness to address issues concerning, the health system. And one of it is the issue of burnout that people are suffering under, and the issue of the incentives that goes to the health workforce. Most time, the incentives, the remuneration for doctors and other health workers are very poor. They are meager. You are aware that as of now, we still have arrears of salaries as far back as 2023 still being held. And just like the Vice President one of NME has mentioned earlier, that it was just by sheer luck that we were able to avert, a strike. A strike by NME is something that should not even happen. If a national strike should happen and all doctors shut down, doctors are not working anywhere, it is going to even affect the president himself. God forbid, if anything bad should happen to any of our political leaders, president, governors, there is no doctor to even give first aid. That is what the strike of NME means. So it's going to affect, it's going to, put us in bad light. It's going to be an eyesore for the country. Okay. So, like you mentioned, part of what is affecting us is the workload, the excess workload, the acute severe shortage of manpower. Several doctors are leaving because their welfare is not a priority to the governor. To the president. The stakeholders, the relevant stakeholders in that sector, most of them are not bothered about the state of the healthcare facility, the structure and all. So it is part of what is causing this, Japa syndrome, the emigration of health workers out of the country.
So, Dr. Osundari, you mentioned, workload and all that. So a lot of doctors have jackpot. They've left Nigeria for greener pastures. Can you tell us how much do doctors earn? And has there been any committee, because we like to create committees in Nigeria to have conversations that have, spoken to the government to say, see, we're reducing, we need, if at all, you want doctors to stay 72 hours, 96 hours on a call, how are they compensating you guys? Did they increase your salary? Are there compensations like Dr. Benjamin mentioned? If you get sick, you get to pay for your medical bills. Are there any ways that the government have said, we're going to increase your salary and all that?
Okay, thank you. We are actually working out something so that the remuneration will be improved. But as of now, the remuneration is still very poor. Now, we are at, part of the agreement we have with government is to see to how this remuneration can be better. And if the remunerations are better, I'm sure that it can encourage other people to come, especially those who have immigrated. Then you now begin to see that people now begin to come back to the country. Because several committees have sat. There is an ongoing collective bargaining agreement that is even happening with the government, and we believe that this will be able to address this issue. Then I would also want to refer you to the national policy on health workforce released by the Honorable Coordinating Minister for Health and Social Workforce, that's Professor Alipati. And part of what is contained in the thematic area, if you go through that national policy on health workforce, you will see all of these things highlighted there. So there are several committees that have sat to address the issue of remuneration for doctors. And as of now, an average doctor in Nigeria is collecting less than $20, because if you multiply $20 by, I think the rate presently is, I think 1,550 or 1,005. So what an average doctor is getting is too low, it's too meager, and we cannot keep, we cannot keep at this. Things needs to be improved and improved upon. So the burnout is really affecting. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to say something, and I want to compare this. Dr. Alamin Usman is here. If I'm not mistaken, Dr. Alamin, where is your location and where do you practice, if you don't mind?
I am in Birmingham.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you confirm, what exactly does the average Nigerian doctor outside of Nigeria get? Maybe I'm asking what your salary is, if you want to tell us.
So, I love the fact that this conversation went this way, and truly, to be honest, I think this is me directly to the NMA president and the NERD president, that even in the health care workforce migration, policy that has been released by the NMA, I'm going to come to that question, but I just want to set a precedent that even in that document, there is no explicitly where it mentioned that they're going to look at the work hours. And I say that we have been neglecting this issue of work hours on its own, and it is the cause of all these issues, all this strike that we've been going on. Look at it this way. Here in the UK, because they have a regulated working hour, a doctor knows exactly how many hours he's going to work every week. And he knows exactly how much he's going to be paid per hour for that work that he has done. So that means that at the end of 40 hours per week, you're going to earn maybe £1,000. And if you earn £1,000, if you're going to work any extra, then you're going to be paid compensated for that. But the problem, the issue that we have in Nigeria is that doctors work excessively. They work more than 400 hours in a month. And then if you come out and come and sit down, look at the way the convents was structured, there is no single explanation that points out this is exactly how 250,000 naira equates to the 406 hours that the doctor has worked over a month. And that is the problem that we are having. Here in the UK, you will find doctors being paid for unsociable hours. Unsociable hours means any hours from on the week. I mean, if you work in a weekend, it's called unsociable hours. If you work any time between 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next day, it's called an unsociable hours. Now look, tell me how many of those hours do Nigerians work voluntarily without being paid anything? They just collectively called it call allowance. What does call allowance mean?
Dr. Alamin, thank you very much. Dr. Alamin, just a second. Dr. Alamin, my apologies. We are running out of time. I'm trying to really get to the end of this argument. Dr. Benjamin, I'd like to know how much does the average Nigerian doctor earn? Dr. Benjamin Olo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
The lowest, our youngest colleague, house officers, earn about 200,000 naira, and the highest doctor earn about maybe maybe about 900k, 800,000 naira. So compare the amount of money in dollars or in pounds. Look at what Alami is saying. A doctor earns 1,000 pounds in a week. That's about 1.5 million naira in a week. Multiply by four times, that is 6 million naira a month. That's a young doctor. But whereas a young doctor in Nigeria earns just 250,000 naira in a month, 6 million, 250,000 naira. So where do you want the doctors to go? And as he has said, There is no place in that policy of health retention policy that shows how the doctors that are living and working in Nigeria will be, with their salaries be improved, and how would their salary be improved per year or per month or per workplace, or how would they be compensated if they work so hard? So it's important we address the issue of welfare in this country. If you don't pay doctors properly, they will not work well.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Osundara, please, if you'll just be summarizing your final take here regarding the disparity in pay for Nigerian and foreign doctors. Please be summary.
All right. I think something needs to be done, and that should be done urgently, because there should be compensation for the excess workload. Let me just address something. What we do as call duty is that once you start your work from 8 o'clock to 4, you don't have a time to rest. You go into your call duty, and sometimes this call will last till the following day, and it can continue in that way for 72 hours, sometimes for months, and you are just perpetually on call. And nobody is going to pay you for excess working hours. Nobody is going to pay you for the stress. Some of this stress is going to cause emotional damage to you, psychological damage, mental breakdown, physical breakdown, and eventually what you get to see is that the doctors are depersonalized. They become cynical, negative attitude towards your colleague, negative attitude towards patient. And in the event you discover that there is assault, doctors and patient fighting, there are several cases of assault that you've seen, because these doctors are human and nobody is attending to them. So in short, I would want the government, especially because this CB has been convocated, to look into the issue of excess working hours. Pay for that time that the doctor has spent in the hospital. And beyond that, there should be policy that safeguard doctors from excessively working, so that the doctor will not misdiagnose when he's treating a patient or will not do a wrong thing. And I wanted to correct something I mentioned. I mentioned $20 or so. So it's $200 I wanted to say, so that it will align with what the
I figured, because we calculated 30,000 naira.
Yeah, it's just about 30-something thousand naira.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Alamin, Dr. Benjamin, and Dr. Osundara, for joining us and giving us insight as to the lives of doctors and why we have a lot of doctors leaving Nigeria. If I was a doctor, I'm sure I would have left. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
Thank you very much. Let's take a quick break now. When we come back, we have a final conversation coming up. Do stay with us.
Welcome back. Today on Focus Africa, we take a look at Africa's response to the Israel-Palestine war as it reflects a complex interplay or historical solidarity, geopolitical interest, and economic stakes. Many African nations continue to align with the Palestinian cause, rooted in shared anti-colonial experiences. This posture often challenges Israel's diplomatic outreach, despite its growing economic ties across the continent. At the AU's recent summit in Addis Ababa, leaders collectively condemned Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide and emphasized African unity behind the two-state solution. Beyond moral alignment, Africa's stance has real diplomatic and economic weight. The continent must balance its relations with Israel, particularly on technology, agriculture, and security partnerships, against its solidarity with Palestine.
Now, very interesting stakes here, and that is why we have with us our very special guest who's going to be discussing this with us. We have joining us this morning Mustafa Bulama. He's an editorial cartoonist and also journalist. You might have seen some of his work here being displayed on our strips, which we'll be doing tomorrow. Bulama, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Now, you've chronicled the Israel...
Thank you for having me.
Yes, finally. You've chronicled very well the Israeli-Palestine war, as well as other issues. But I'm wondering exactly what your take is on how the African leaders or African countries are aligning in this broad interplay of diplomacy and need. What's your take?
Yeah, I think I would like to start with maybe the quote of Nelson Mandela. He said, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. I feel since Africa have experienced colonialism, we know the impact of colonialism. We're still facing the impact of colonialism. I think this should be something really clear, especially to Africa, that we know where we stand. We align with the Palestinians in actually getting their freedom. And it's not just an issue of foreign policy, but an issue of moral consistency. As a continent, we've suffered, like I said, under colonialism and apartheid, and we cannot ignore when Palestinians face the same kind of disposition and oppression. So I feel African countries need to really come together, speak with one voice, and remain consistent in their demand for the freedom of Palestinians and maybe the two-state solution or whatever solution. But then the Palestinians need to have their own freedom.
So Mustafa, for me, I would like to ask that, do you think African citizens see this conflict as distant, or do they feel its direct impact in terms of economics and solidarity?
Well, a lot of Africans may feel it's a bit distant to them, maybe because we face a lot of problems of our own in Africa. But in reality, it is also something that is that will really affect us either now or in the future. Because you see, in Africa, just take, for example, what is happening right now in Palestine. There is no African country that will, carry out such violation of international law and just get away with it. Before you know what's happening, the Western countries will send maybe military interventions, or they will send sanctions and so on. Even in Nigeria, for example, if we take Nigeria, for example, during the Buhari administration, we tried to buy some weapons from the United States. And the United States Congress blocked this transaction, this purchase of weapons, based on what? They said Nigeria's human rights record. But you can imagine a country that is talking about the human rights records of Nigeria is still supporting a country, giving the country weapons and bombs and all of that to kill innocent civilians. We're seeing how babies, women, children, journalists, paramedics being killed. It's so as Africa, I think the African continent need to understand this, that it is not going to be accepted anywhere in the world for Africa to do such a thing, and by leaving it like this, or remain silent, or not being clear about where we stand, again, it creates something for us in the future, where you may have a situation where other maybe despotic rulers or something, dictators, may decide to also do the same thing, and you don't have anything to say.
Okay. Now, real quick, we only have about a minute, but I'm wondering how you empathize with the African countries, noting that they have to, if they do, have to take sides with either this or that, and that has further implications with further alliances with these countries. For instance, the US and the tariffs that it's handing out to people or countries that do not seem to align with its own thoughts. How do you empathize with African countries then?
Yeah, I think the African countries need to come together, really. If African countries can come together and unite and actually take a stand, then you have a voice, and then you also be able to push your own agenda, in the international affairs. Is the United States going to sanction all African countries? Let's even assume it does. Then what about other nations in the world? Africa can trade with other nations. Africa can trade with itself, countries in Africa and all of that. But we need to find a way. We shouldn't be seen being complicit. we shouldn't be seen hobnobbing with a country that is violating international law and international human rights. So there has to be this balancing sort of how we approach some of these things. Africa could also can also impose sanctions. You know, Africa can determine what kind of trade or what kind of relationship it's going to have with the Israelis until they stop what they're doing.
All right, then, Mustafa Bulama, we want to say thank you very much for joining us to discuss this on Focus Africa here inside of Breakfast Extra. It's been a long time coming. We've been expecting to see you, but we hoped that you were going to join on for strips, but here you are on Focus Africa. So I'm inviting you over, perhaps maybe on tomorrow's show. Would like to analyze the cartoons together. Maybe some of them might be yours. Please say yes.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you very much. There you heard it. He can't get out of this one. Thank you, Bulama. And we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that's it for breakfast this morning, isn't it?
Was quite a breakfast.
Even if we had none at all, like absolutely none. But thank
was
you
an
for
amazing
joining.
Conversation.
Yes, indeed. They were very exciting ones.
Thank you to all our guests.
Yeah, indeed. Tomorrow's edition. So join us then and bring breakfast. Bye-bye.
Bye.